Orleans has a heartbeat. It is alive. When the city celebrates, we celebrate, and when the city hurts, we hurt. It has a soul. That's how I would describe New Orleans. I want Haley and Hope to know that they have another place to call home, and that's New Orleans. They're 5 and 3 right now, and when they grow up, I want them to understand that when they get off the plane and they walk into the city, that they're gonna get a warm embrace. I want so badly for this to be part of their lives because it's such an important part of mine. I want them to know the feeling of walking through the French Quarter. I want them to know the feeling of eating a warm croissant or a warm beignet. I want them to know the feeling of like a random jazz band popping up in the middle of nowhere, and music and people dancing and people not caring what people think. I want them to know that life. So they will be coming here their whole lives, and I think it's gonna end up being a place that they feel like is home. Okay, the restaurant that feels most like New Orleans to me is definitely Mr. B's. And it's because it's in the French Quarter. I went there since I first moved here. Everyone talked about it. But their barbecue shrimp in the bowl, picture the shrimp, and it's not barbecue sauce like people who aren't from here think it is. It's not like the kind that you put on ribs. It's like a different kind of roux, and you take warm, crunchy French bread and you break it off and you dunk it in that delicious sauce and you crunch on the bread. I mean, the shrimp is amazing, but the sauce by itself is insane. So I would say, to me, Mr. B's, if I'm thinking about a quintessential New Orleans restaurant, like that's my pick. The best week to come to New Orleans is Jazz Fest. So it's the last weekend in April, first weekend in May. You get a pick of either one of those. It is magical. If you have not gone, you must go. If you've been to a music fest and say, I've already been to a music fest, no, you haven't. You have not been to a music fest until you've come to Jazz Fest. It's called Jazz Fest, but there's not much jazz. I mean, literally on one stage is Bruce Springsteen. On one stage is Wynonna Judd. On one stage is a kid who sounds like Aretha Franklin but is 6 years old. On one stage is a gospel tent that you can see people who've been buttoned up their whole lives come to New Orleans on that week. They rip off the corsets. They're like free. It's like a place where you can be free. And if you've been buttoned up for month after month after month and you come for Jazz Fest, get ready. I like the gospel tent a lot because there's something about when you walk in and you start hearing like, oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. Like there's something about the feeling and it just grabs you. It just grabs you. If you walk through the city of New Orleans, if you walk through the French Quarter and stop for a second, you'll hear it. Any random club, you will stand in the doorway and go, who is that? You'll walk through and hear somebody singing, belting out some blues or some jazz or some soul or R&B or whatever, and go, how do I not know their name? You'll have a drink, you'll like soak it in, you'll walk a little bit further down the French Quarter, and you'll hear it again. And you'll hear it again, and you'll hear it again. The music of New Orleans is everywhere. You can't miss it. It's impossible to miss. You could go to the French Quarter and hear it and feel it and see it. And people randomly, I mean, some of the best musicians are people whose names we don't know because they haven't yet been discovered, but they're here and they're singing and they're playing and they're performing. So if you walk the French Quarter, if you go uptown to some of the cool bars, you'll hear it and you'll wonder to yourself, how did I not know that person's name? St. Charles Avenue will take your breath away. It is lined with beautiful homes, but it's got the streetcar line right through the middle. It's got old trees that have been here since the beginning of time, it feels like. And when you go down that street, it's so different from the French Quarter. It's so different from all the other parts of town, but it reminds you of what the city is all about. And I remember running up and down those train tracks because I love to run through New Orleans and go jogging. So I would go running down those tracks, and I remember what that felt like. And I remember running down those tracks and it was pouring rain, and I loved it. And I remember thinking to myself, people would honk their horn, "You go, girl!" You're like, it's a beautiful, beautiful street, but it's got all the rich history and all of like the heart and soul of the city. So St. Charles Avenue, man, don't miss it.